Something is happening in the US, and it transcends left versus right because all Americans finally agree on something, that we don't want data centers in our communities. And this AI resistance movement is building serious political power. In just the first quarter of this year, 75 data center projects to the tune of $130 billion were blocked. That's more than the total amount of data centers blocked in all of last year. Because hating data centers is something we all agree on. They're terrible for communities. They consume huge amounts of energy and water, they drive up electricity bills, they create air pollution, and for me, the worst part is the noise pollution. Oh my God. And the benefits don't go to the communities. They go to a small group of billionaires and trillionaires racing to develop a technology that's built off of stolen data, that's taking people's jobs, making us work longer hours, and making us dumber. It's a classic example of corporations privatizing profits and socializing costs, and hoping we don't notice. But we did notice, and that's what makes these wins so beautiful. Like in my hometown of LA, where residents of Monterey Park, technically a separate city, mobilized their community, pressured city council, and got 86% of voters on board for a permanent data center ban. Now, over 100 US towns have put restrictions on data centers, and 12 states are advancing statewide moratoriums. The movement is impacting elections too, as Democratic Socialist candidates like Malat Quiros and Claire Valdez, who just won their primaries, ran on platforms including data center bans. The win.
There's a nationwide data center protest that is happening, and if you are trying to fight these things, this is a video you're going to want to save and share, and it's happening July 18th. This is the AI Roundup, and this is the website that it's being reported on, humansfirst.com, and they've got a countdown on there. You can find a protest near you. You can also sign up to host a protest, and then in the rest of the website, they just really go in on the issues that people have with AI data centers, like the water use, the energy use, the land use, the air pollution, the secrecy of it all, the mass surveillance, replacing jobs, and it keeps going. This article here talks about it and shows the map of where all of this is happening, these protests, but I'm sure that more of them are going to be added to the list because if you still haven't noticed yet, AI data centers are extremely unpopular across the country, and it's already gotten a lot of politicians voted out of office. The group Humans First said the demonstrations are intended to pressure local, state, and federal officials to protect communities from rising utility costs, water demand, noise, land use changes, and what it describes as national security risks tied to rapid AI expansion. And I get the feeling that none of this would have happened at this scale if the politicians would have actually listened to their constituents, if they wouldn't have signed NDAs, if they would have tried to collaborate with the people that elected them instead of ignoring them, and if the trillion-dollar corporations on their end and all the developers that want to make as much money out of this as possible would have actually been good neighbors, the good neighbors that they were claiming that they were trying to be. Now, I'm sure there are some people in there that are dealing in good faith, but from what I've seen, it's few and far between. And my question here is, will this be successful, number one, and will it finally wake up the politicians, the elected politicians that are in charge of regulating AI? Guess we're going to see. July 18th, nationwide AI data center protest happening across the United States.
I heard about the proposed data center that they want to build next to the Nashville Zoo, which is an absolute nightmare scenario. First of all, they don't have the power to build this. They don't have the water. It doesn't belong there. It would be an enormous monstrosity, an absolute eyesore, and detract in every way from not only the zoo, but that area. It's not too late to stop it either. The zoo is one of the sources of joy in the city. It is one of the top zoos in the world. It's family memories. It is expanding itself. It's got all these plans to become even better as a resource for our city. So let's sign the petition if you agree, and everybody I've talked to does. Sign a petition. Let's stop it. They don't have to do this here. Build them somewhere else, but let's keep Nashville as beautiful and as great an attraction as it's always been.
Data centers! No data centers! No data centers!
Maybe it's building more affordable housing. Nashville could improve in many ways, but building brand new data centers at the expense of the working class is not one of them.
That's right.
Within the short time span that AI has risen in popularity, it has already dealt massive negative impacts. Not only has its use in the U.S. eliminated jobs, contributed to misinformation, and caused the deaths of teenagers
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Ron Gibson counts the bullet holes in his front door.
14, 15.
Gibson is an Indianapolis city councilor, targeted, he says, for supporting a data center in his community.
Late in the night, we heard loud banging on glass and glass breaking. I didn't realize that my house been shot up until daylight. I mean, I could see daylight was coming through the door. My son's Lego set was on the dining room table. The bullets went around. And I had to think about it. What if he'd have been in that space at that time of night?
There are some 4,000 data centers already built or under construction across the country, with at least 1,500 more planned.
You're opening a Pandora's box that can't be closed.
In Union, Missouri, there's frustration over 2 large proposed data centers. Residents, they hear horror stories about the noise.
What's it like when you're trying to sleep?
It's like a July 4th fireworks going on.
And the drain on nearby well water.
They say they're not going to drill wells, but there's nothing to preclude them from buying a property adjacent and drilling a well there.
The company behind one of the campuses says they won't tax local resources.
We're developing a closed-loop water system, so it conserves water. These things are needed, but we believe we can develop them in a conscious way, getting feedback from the community.
What happens if this does get approved and they're able to build?
That's what's scary. Are we going to stay and pray that it's not as bad as we expect it to be? I'm really not sure. I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan for after. I'm hoping that we can fight this.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honor to our apostles, our elder bishops, a great millstone, and well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing the true doctrine across the 4 winds of the earth in all truth and in sincerity. On the Mount Ariyah for the Mississippi count, Lord willing, this will be a defined lesson. And it's just a quick lesson through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Going into how, division is being brought because of these data centers. It's causing division between these Edomites, And it would be all good if it was just, data centers being built near predominantly, Jake neighborhoods or Jake just cities or whatever the case may be. But see, they buying up land. It's like they're near these Edomites, and it's becoming a problem now, And these data centers, man, they are hazardous, They pollute the air. They have noise pollution. They causing people utilities to go up. They're drying up, bodies of water, and it's just a complete light at night, is people are really being plagued by these data centers. I know I seen a video a couple months ago where these people was complaining about the light that's coming from it, The light is so bright, it was, it never looked like it was dark in their neighborhood, and it was almost kind of like in a remote area. But, it was complete light around there. You know how a football stadium can be lit up at night? You just, it's still just brightness. That's how the brightness was coming through their windows because of these data centers, on top of the noise, on top of the polluting of the water. The water was all black, basically, contaminated. And it's nothing but a plague, man. These data centers are plagues amongst these people. But it's causing division. It's causing uproars. And it's nothing but prophecy, And now we see that, I'm going to read this article because they're finna have a protest on the 18th, And we're gonna see how it's gonna turn out. What's gonna happen? What the reaction is gonna be from them having this protest. Maybe somebody get deleted, maybe it'll get chaotic, out of control, Lord willing. But we'll see. So I'm gonna read this post right here from Rainmaker 1973. It says more than 50 cities across the United States are preparing to hold protests against AI data centers on July the 18th. The events are being coordinated by Humans First, a conservative advocacy organization that maintains local communities should have greater say in decisions about sitting large-scale AI facilities. Organizers contend that the swift growth of AI infrastructure is driving higher electricity consumption, increasing water usage, generating noise pollution, altering land use patterns, and raising questions about public health and national security. Right, and that's what's causing the uproar. You know, people having respiratory problems. The electricity bill is going up. That water is dirty. The noise is driving them crazy. You know, they can't think straight. It's a constant drilling of noise in their brains, man, throughout their ears, just constantly. You know, and that is enough to drive a person mad, man. You constantly, and then you have to go through your day-to-day life. You work, you deal with the world, then you go home and you got this constant noise that's constantly penetrating through the walls of your home, through your eardrums. And then at night you got the same noise, but it's a bright light if you're close enough to it, where it's like you just in shit, I guess you could say Alaska, man. Shit, because it's not getting dark because of the light from the AI centers, man. But it's just so much stress coming from these AI centers, man, to people, and people are getting tired of it. And the Edomites are feeling it, man. They're catching hell with it. So now this is why all the protesting is gonna start happening, because the Edomites are gonna start fighting back. And as you can see in that one video, shit, they shot up that man's house because he's a supporter, and I guess he's a congressman, but he's a supporter of AI, these AI data centers being built. So, you know, it's gonna get real ugly, man. You know, that goes, you know, back to they should not regard their king nor princes. They're gonna start invading these people, man. These people, these elected officials, these people who support these AI centers, data centers and everything, people are gonna start visiting them, man, and try to do them bodily harm. Because people have, you know, they don't have money, they losing jobs because of AI. You know, it's a cause and effect to all this. And people are losing. And they about to lose it. So it's gonna get real dangerous, man. And again, that's prophecy, man. All right. Demonstrations are scheduled in over 50 locations spanning states such as California, Texas, Virginia, Florida, Georgia, Missouri, Ohio, and New Jersey. These actions reflect mounting nationwide resistance to AI data centers. A recent Gallup survey revealed that 7% of Americans oppose the construction of such facilities in their own neighborhoods. Primary worries include raising utilities costs, greater water demands and environmental consequences, increased traffic noise, and potential declines in nearby property value. Yeah, it's gonna drive the property value down. You know, animals are gonna suffer because of this shit, especially when it comes to the water they be using, man, drying up lakes and stuff. You know, those have particular fishes and different other species in their water, you know, and animals, you know, deers, just any kind of livestock, or I mean, not livestock, but any kind of animals that live in the forest, utilize those particular bodies of water to drink, you know. But they're drying them up by way of these data centers. And people are having to pay for it out of their own pocket because electricity is going up, man. It's happening anyway. But these data centers, you live by these data centers, it's going to be even worse. And then your water is going to be polluted. You know, the little water you can get All right. Proponents of data centers maintain that they are necessary to satisfy surging demands for artificial intelligence capabilities and to keep the United States in forefront of global AI development. And these data centers are nothing but monitoring centers being put up, man, stations where when they implement this MOTB, they're going to have the capability of monitoring, watching, dictating how people move, how they spend, okay, because they think they're the most high. So it's all, the rabbit hole always go deeper when it comes to these devils, man. They'll give you this shit on the surface, like it's benefiting the citizens, the United States, the people, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it's all about their tactic to push forward their agenda when it comes to bringing forth their new world order. The planned protests underscore an escalating tension between the push for expanded AI infrastructure and concerns of communities designated to accommodate it. And we see it's going to happen on July the 18th. See the dots and everything. Those are the areas it's supposed to be in, the different states. But hey, we're gonna see. We're gonna see what's gonna happen, man. We're gonna see how this pan out. Lord willing, it'll get chaotic and straight malicious, man. Maybe some bodies a bit, be put down. Maybe some people go to the spirit world and it just increase that division, man. Because the Lord said, think not I come to bring peace but division, man, as well as the sword. And this is a part of division, a part of pushing that division, man, is these data centers and people coming up against them. Because you got the wealthy, the rich, they ain't building, Gates ain't got this shit near his crib. Mark Zuckerberg, he ain't got it near his home, So, yeah, it's going to cause a lot of division, man. All right, this is the book of Mark, chapter 3, starting verse 23. And he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his good, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil the house. But the basic point is, man, a house divided cannot stand. A kingdom divided cannot stand. Esau against Esau, that house can't stand. And that division is going to cause that house to fall because they're being weakened because they're not on one accord. And that's the beautiful thing about it, man. These devils now are drinking that drag, they're drinking that cup. Things are changing, man. They're at each other's throats, which they always have had, disagreements and being combative with each other. But now it's going to a different level, man. Because, these low-level Edomites, the ones who have been bamboozled and swindled out of their birthright, man, by these elites, they starting to stand up. They're peeping shit out. And they're getting upset, man. And they want to take their country back, so they speak. So they're finna start coming up against the wealthy, the decision makers, the lawbreakers that make the law. These higher up Edomites. And like I say, you see that video when I first played that Edomite that's supporting these data centers, they riddled his crib up with some bullets, All right, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19, verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. So at the end of the day, all the Edomites eventually, you know, are going to have some kind of disagreement and bump heads. The Republicans, the Democrats, the hillbillies, the trailer park trash, you know, your regular Edomites, your everyday working Edomites, just period, man. They're gonna start coming up against the leaders of the so-called leaders of this country. And then you're gonna have, you know, the race wars with Jacob and Esau. You know, that's brewing, you know. That's brewing. You know, you got the Nolan Wells situation. Forget the other guy name that they found that supposed to drown in Alabama. You know, and it's countless accounts where Jake dealing with Esau ended up, you know, deleted. But nobody never knows what's happened. But, you know, and that's, I mean, I'm kind of off of the topic that I was doing, but, you know, the point is that the Lord is taking peace out the earth, man. You know, we're in that time of war, man, and people are finna start crashing out and losing it even more because everything is being stripped, okay? The Lord is allowing this devil to start stripping away people's privileges, okay? Their liberties. And people are finna start crashing out, man. And Lord willing, we'll see a hell of a crash out this Saturday during the protests in some of these cities, man. You know? So, the Lord willing is an edifying lesson. I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honor to our apostles, our elder bishops, a great millstone, and Ruel. Peace and salutation to the hopeful elect. Shalom.